So hello and thank you to everyone for joining this town hall with President of School Year Abroad, Tom Hassan, Advancement Committee Chair of SYA's Board of Trustees, Allison Bacon, also a Spain 81 alumna, Spain Resident Director, Meghan Lewis-Roof, and long-serving SYA Spain faculty member, Oriol Bastardes. I am Erin Erickson, SYA's Director of Advancement, and it is my pleasure to welcome you. I want to start with a huge thank you. If you are joining us, then you have already invested in the future of SYA with a gift or pledge to the campaign for SYA. Please know how incredibly grateful we are for your support, and it's already at work, as you'll learn today, strengthening SYA for future students. As I was looking back on my notes from the town hall that we had for campaign donors at the end of September, at that point, we had just crossed the $12 million mark toward our $18 million goal. And I'm pleased to report today that we are now approaching the $14.5 million mark. So we're making great progress, getting closer and working toward that $18 million goal. And shortly, Allison Bacon will provide some additional information about current initiatives as we go into these last 4 months of campaign fundraising. Also at that town hall last September, we introduced you to Annika Milliman, who's a France 20 student. She was one of the first 2 Alvarez Global Scholars to study abroad. And we have Carlos Alvarez, who's on the call with us today, who's able to make that possible with his generous endowment gift. So thank you to Carlos and family for that. Through the campaign and specifically through the Alvarez family gift, Annika was able to study abroad in France, and she had a transformative year. If you haven't had a chance to watch the recording from that, it's actually available on our campaign microsite, which is campaignforsya.org/events. So be sure to check that out. Today, you'll be hearing again from some who have been directly and positively impacted by funds given to the campaign. This time you'll hear from our Spain campus and specifically from Spain Resident Director Meghan Lewis-Roof and faculty member Oriol Bastardes. As some of you may know, at the beginning of December, SYA was able to bring faculty back to work at 85% after they were on furlough with no students on campus in the fall. We were able to do this because of a generous campaign donor who made funds available for this specific purpose. Meghan and Oriol are looking forward to sharing with you what they have been working on and in preparation for our students to return in the fall and building upon the good curricular work that was started in recent years. So before handing the mic over to Tom, who will introduce them and start that conversation, I want to remind you that this webinar is being recorded. It may be distributed to others who aren't able to be with us today, just to continue sharing this good news with them. And also we've allocated some time at the end for any questions. So if you have any, then feel free to throw them in the chat box or in the Q&A, and we will get to those as we can. So with that, I will pass the Zoom mic over to Tom Hassan, and he will provide a general SYA update.
Great, thank you, Erin, and special thanks to Erin and her team. They have been amazingly productive during this crazy time, and they pivoted well, and they've got the Zoom down. So thank you guys for organizing this and so many other things. And as I look on the screen, it's so wonderful to see many, many people I know well. And Rich, I look forward to meeting you. Thank you for your wonderful, I think it may be 40 years that you have given to SYA, and can't thank you enough. And other folks on this who have been incredibly generous, both with their donations and also their time and service to SYA. So it's really great to see you all. It's like a reunion, and thank you. I thought I would just kind of level set so everyone knows what has transpired. Some of you know the ins and outs of this more than others, but I thought it would be interesting to just flip back the calendar to January of 20. And the coronavirus started rearing its ugly head, as we say, in Beijing about that time, and we had to pull our students out pretty quickly. We're able to evacuate them within a few days, and so we at that point thought it may be confined to that area of the world. And so I and a few others had a brilliant idea to actually get those kids to Italy, because we thought, well, that would be a cool experience for them. They've been in Beijing and they can be in Viterbo and continue their Mandarin studies and learned a little Italian on the side. And then the virus spread. And just before those kids got on the plane to go to Italy, it was clear that we were going to have to close Italy, and then soon thereafter, France and Spain. And the nice thing, again, there are silver linings in all of this, which is that when the kids got home, they most all stayed with SYA. We did virtual classes from the countries. And there's those moments, and Meghan can add to this later on, but there were those moments where our kids were back with their families in the US, and they were having their meals, and they were Zooming back with their host families. And, just those moments of real connectedness that this technology allows and that SYA really promotes. So it's great to see all that. And then fast forward, we had a group of students who had been admitted for this year, many of whom stuck with us through thick and thin. We're hoping to get things up and running this past fall, and then that wasn't possible, and then even January, but that wasn't possible. But right now we have admitted a new group of students for next fall, and all forward progress. We're going to be opening next fall, and we have kids who came to us this year to say they want, and we have a group of about 50 kids who got admitted a year ago who are also going to come. So they're heading over, and we're really excited by all of this. Aaron mentioned some really interesting work that's been able to happen right now in preparation for getting the kids over. And that's a real focus of today's conversation. So I'll introduce Meghan and Oriol in a little bit, but first I want to introduce Allison Bacon, who is a Spain alumna, class of 81. She is a wonderful member of the Board of Trustees. She defines what a great board member is, someone who just is there all the time. She is chair of the advancement committee, and she has great creative ideas for us, and it just rolls up her sleeves and helps us in every step of the way. And we find her in Texas right now, and fortunately, it is 75 degrees in Texas right now, not 35 or 25 as it was a few weeks ago. So Allison, we'd love to hear a few words from you. You're on mute, Allison.
Yep, sorry, I thought I had cleared that. My apologies. Hello, everybody. And if you're on this call, you have been one of the significant donors to the Capitol campaign, and we just cannot thank you enough. I think it probably goes without saying to everybody on this call that as we fund endowments for the school, that leads to long-term financial health for SYA, and there just couldn't be anything more important. So thank you truly for your love and affection for the school and for your financial support. We have two initiatives that you may or may not know about. I'm sure you know about the Alvarez multiplier match. Thank you so much, Carlos, for that push for the school. What it is $1 million that will match anybody who donates at $100,000 or more at 25%. So for every $100,000, the school gets $125,000 actually. And we have secured approximately $700,000 of that. So we have about $300,000 still on the table. And I'm sorry to tell you, Carlos, but we intend to find those donors and not leave any of that money on the table. So thank you so much for that. But we need everybody's help. The school has been working really, really hard. Tom, Aaron, all of her team, really hard to get us where we are right now at almost $14.5 million, which is extraordinary. And now it really falls on us, the alums. We can do things that the school just can't, frankly, can't do. We can reach our fellow students and share memories and share stories. And to that end, I will tell two little stories. One is that there was a classmate of mine that was not really on the school's radar screen. They knew he was interested in the school, had hosted events, but they were not aware of his financial capacity. And when we brought it to their attention and made some phone calls, he agreed to make a $100,000 contribution. So that's within all of our abilities to do, is find those classmates within our class who might want to support the school as well. The second thing that we're doing is, I'm so sorry. The second thing we're doing is a women's initiative, because 62% of our alums are women. And additionally, this is the 50th anniversary of girls going to SYA. That's been really exciting too. We're trying to get 20 women at a leadership level, and we have 11 of those so far. So if you know of any women in your class who, sorry, that's a daughter trying to hunt me down. If you know of any women in your class who would be interested in getting involved. And it's also been really fun just to be connected to other women who are so passionate about the school. Let me, sorry, read through. I guess really finally, what we really could,
She wants to give to SYA, Allison.
That must be what it is. That's, you know, the tenacity of a 24-year-old should not be underestimated when she's trying to hunt down her mother. Anyway, at the end of the day, we could really use everybody's support. And thank you so much for helping financially. Now, with any ability to do outreach, that would be terrific. And we are going to be so excited to have a wonderful announcement in June, at the end of June, of all the dollars that we're going to raise for the school. And I'll say one final thing. That was the second story I was going to say is, when I made my initial contribution to the school, I was not at the leadership level. I wasn't certain that was something I was going to financially be able to do. But when the Alvarez family generously agreed that they would match all $100,000 of a $100,000 gift at 25%, I went back and I looked and I tried to decide if that over 5 years I could create that stretch. And it turned out that I felt comfortable doing that. So if there's anybody on this call who thinks that they might be able to stretch and get to $100,000, that would be terrific. That will help get more of that $300,000 off the table that we're trying to secure. But at the end of the day, really very happy with the progress that we're making, really excited to hear how engaged our alums are and how much they really value the experience that we all got, and that the faculty provides on a regular basis for us. So thank you to everybody. And I think I'm going to pass it back to you, Tom. I'm not sure who.
Yeah, that's it. Thank you, Allison, for that. And thank you for your stretch. And thanks for all that you do. And in fact, you know, as we reach out to alums, it is an easy conversation because in their lives, SYA was truly a life-changing experience. And it's interesting because when I go around the country, around the world, and meet with alums and I say, tell me a little bit about your experience, inevitably life-changing comes up in part of that conversation. And in all that they've done throughout life, that 1 year has meant so much to them. It comes at a really critical time in their lives. They're teenagers, their eyes are wide open. Teenagers I've dealt with for 40 years plus, they're about themselves, and now there's a chance for them to be the other and kind of understand the world, and it really makes a significant difference. And I would say now more than ever, we need the kinds of experiences like SYA for our students. So anyway, thank you. Now it gives me great pleasure to move to our folks in Spain, Meghan, who is our RD, and Meghan brings many, many years of leading programs overseas, but also being in the US and doing a lot of experiential teaching herself. And it really resonates with SYA because we moved, and our campaign really is based on the fact that we're getting kids out of their seats and using their language and using the local area to learn that language. And we'll hear more about that. Oriol is someone who has been with SYA since 1992. And a nice footnote here is that he's the one member in Zaragoza who was actually in our Barcelona faculty and moved over there. He's also a master teacher of history and theater. And I will also say, when I was treated to a little concert by him, he's a real concert pianist. So he is a guy of many talents, and we're so lucky to have him, lucky to have Meghan, and would love to hear from them. And I'm going to ask a few questions, and they're going to go from there. So, one question I have is, this year, both Aaron and I mentioned that we brought faculty back, and they've really been immersed in a number of things. So, Meghan, why don't you talk a little bit about the kind of work that the faculty, both in Zaragoza, in Jaén, and in Viterbo, have been doing this winter and spring?
Great. Well, first, it's so nice to meet you all virtually and to see you, Kristen. I hope that Susanna is doing well. It's just great to have an opportunity to see you all face to face. And I just like to echo the thank yous that have already been given for your support of SYA, the opportunity to do the kind of work we're doing right now with our teams. It's really kind of a once in a lifetime opportunity as a school, because you don't generally have a block of time to really focus in on professional development. It tends to be something that's sprinkled in throughout the year, or that you do in the summer and you're exhausted when you're doing it, and it's hard to remember everything when you get back into the classroom. And so to have the support to be able to all be back and working together on these initiatives it's just fantastic. Also, just one more quick thanks to Erin and her team for all of their work on the campaign and their support in helping us to bring everyone back as well. So yes, as Tom said, we've been doing a lot of work. We've split the work that we're doing into 3 kind of focus areas. We've been working a lot as teams, so teams within each country, and then also across our 3 campuses. That work has been primarily focused on best practices in teaching, both in an experiential way, but also for the teaching that is happening in our classrooms. And I'll go into a little bit more detail about the kind of work that we've been doing with that. And then we've been working also with Susan, who's been a fantastic support for us as well in setting up sessions with alumni. So we've been offering seminars and also conversation clubs for alumni to sign up so that they can continue to practice their language skills and learn from our fantastic teaching teams. And then we are also doing work with homeschools. And so we've been doing outreach to we started with a small group of member schools that we're doing outreach with, and having some of our teachers teach classes virtually to language classes back in the US. So all 3 of those have been really great experiences, I think, for all of us. And we're going to get into a little bit more detail about that with a few of the next questions. And Oriol is going to tell us a little bit too about his kind of perspective on having been here since 1992, right, Oriol?
Yeah. A long time, yeah. First of all, on behalf of all the teachers, I want to thank all of you for the effort that you have made to give us this great opportunity for professional development in such difficult circumstances. As you all said, I've been in SYA since 1992, and I have to say that we have always tried to keep up to date with the news that has occurred in the world of education, but we have never had so much time to seriously rethink all teaching techniques and strategies. As anyone knows, the pandemic has been a disaster in every way, but on the other side, it has also given us time to work in a pretty relaxed way and acquire the necessary tools to develop our teaching as fully as possible. Yeah.
Terrific. Meghan, can you talk a little bit more about the kind of professional development, some of the projects you guys have been working on that really kind of pop for you?
Yes. So when we were, back in the fall, kind of trying to figure out if we were going to be able to open or not, we of course had to start looking at contingency plans and what might we be able to do if we weren't able to open with students. And so at that time, we kind of took a big look at where would we go with the time that we had in order to do professional development. And I think a lot of schools right now, particularly because of the COVID situation, are really taking a pause to figure out what makes the most sense as we move forward as educators. There's a lot of talk now, of course, about the fact that our students are in a much different world from the one that we were all in when we were in school, and that the world that they're going into is much different. And so oftentimes, when you look at our education system and the way things are set up, it's not very different from the way that we went to school, even though the world that we're living in is very different. And so we started looking at, what are those 21st century skills that our students are really going to need to have as they move forward. And as Aaron mentioned before, in the past couple of summers, we've had the opportunity to do a conference at one of our locations here, and we've started that work and looked at the experiential side of things. But what we've done now is really take the time to do right now we're doing two main professional development programs that are more formalized. So one is called Understanding by Design, which is really just a philosophy of, starting with the objectives that you have, working backwards all the way down to what are you going to do in the classroom to reach those objectives, or what are you going to do out in the city in order for your students to be better communicators, critical thinkers, all of the skills that we know that they are going to need as they move forward. And then the second major piece of professional development that's really with other professionals is with our language teaching specifically. So that professional development we're doing with ACTFL, which is the American Council on the Teaching of Foreign Languages. And that's a program that will really help us focus in on how do we get students to grow their language skills in a really intentional way while they're here with us. So in addition to doing that, we're doing a lot of reading. We're really fortunate in Spain. We found a fantastic book that's called How Do We Learn? Cómo Aprendemos? And it's on the science of learning. There's been a lot of research recently that's been done, neuroscience research on how do we actually learn and what do we need to be doing in our classrooms in order for us to be taking advantage of that information that we have. And so we're also doing a lot of conversations based on the readings that we're doing here. So yeah, those are kind of the main things as far as the professional development piece, specifically between the three campuses.
Oriol, do you have a moment or two that you've enjoyed about that professional development?
Yeah, one of the aspects that we have enjoyed the most during this month has been the opportunity to work together with the different SYA campuses, because sharing opinions from different teams of teachers and from different countries has been very, very enriching and has opened new perspectives for us. It has also consolidated the feeling that we are one big family, despite the differences between the three SYA locations. I have to add that sometimes it has been funny, because as you can imagine, we use English as a common language of communication, but of course with an Italian, French, and Spanish accent. And this has led some funny situations and funny confusion sometimes. And another important aspect of this professional development is that we have put ourselves in the shoes of the students. And this has changed a little bit our perspective and made us more empathetic and generous and more attentive to their needs.
Great. I'm sure they.
May I?
Absolutely.
Is it, Allison, you went to Spain?
Yes, Allison did.
Yes, a very long time ago, 81.
Okay, and Meghan, you are the executive director there, right?
Yes, the resident director of the Spain program, yes.
Good. you know, you were saying aprendemos, right? And the learnings, and Oriol, you are, you are, you know, a professor there and spent a lot of time there. But you know that songs are also learning methods.
Mhm.
So maybe, Allison, you would like to learn this song?
Okay.
And Oriol may be a good teacher for you. There was a songwriter from Mexico. His name and nickname was Cri-Cri, El Grillito Cantor. And his name is Gabilondo Soler. And he created many songs for children, and we all grew up you know, listening to this song. So this song I had a pleasure of singing in front of the SYA students in Zaragoza to show them how maybe they could learn that one. So here it goes. Que dejen toditos los libros abiertos, ha sido la orden que dio el general. Que todos los niños estén muy atentos, las 5 vocales van a desfilar. The vowels are going to parade. Primero verás que pasa la A, con sus 2 patitas muy abiertas al marchar. Ahí viene la E, alzando los pies. El palo de en medio es más chico, como ves. Aquí está la I. La sigue la O. Una es flaca y otra gorda porque ya comió. Y luego hasta atrás llegó la U, como la cuerda que siempre saltas tú. Pam, pam.
That's great.
Oh,
Muy bonito, ¿eh?
Oriol, don't
That's
fail.
great.
No lo conocía. I didn't know it.
Puedes aprender, esas son fáciles de aprender
Sí, 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 sí.
y de usar las vocales and to have to use the vowels. Okay?
Carlos, you remind me, my Spanish was very basic when I went over there, and that I had a 5-year-old little sister, and I used to watch Barrio Sésamo with her every day. I watched Sesame Street with her, and that's where I learned a lot of my Spanish.
Okay. Okay. Well,
So-
we spent a week long of studying the El Quijote on the anniversary of Cervantes. And I tell you that we gained weight big time.
So Megan, you can have Carlos do a rendition with the next year when you have the kids there, okay?
Yes,
All right.
definitely.
Let's do it. Let's do it.
That would be terrific. Thank you.
We have to incorporate this song, yeah.
Pass my hat and get some euros or pesetas I take.
There you go. Great, great.
It's wonderful, Megan, that experience of being there with so many, you know, at every school, having so many dedicated professors who have been, some of them have been there. They know where all the bodies are buried. I tell you, they could blackmail the hell out of the kids.
And Carlos, to pick up on that, what the SYA faculty is a really dedicated faculty. So the fact that we could help them this winter and spring was just magical for us, because they are our heart and soul, and they do great work. And Megan, can you talk a little bit more about you were talking about the outreach that we're doing, and before you answer it, one of the thoughts I always had, because I've been connected to SYA through Exeter, since the 80s. And I always thought it would be kind of fun to have this kind of connection of the kids or the faculty there kind of connected back to the classrooms in America. And we finally were able to do it. And in fact, what we're doing right now, I think is just the beginning. I would love to kind of continue this after the pandemic. So Megan, do you want to talk a little bit, maybe an example or two of the kinds of things that are happening on the the member school and the alum side?
Sure, of course, yes. So yes, what you're saying is very true, and Carlos has seen it when he was able to visit Zaragoza. It sounds like that we are really fortunate on all of our campuses that we have such dedicated teams that are so excited about the work that we're doing professional development wise, but also the outreach that we're doing with alumni and with our home schools. So the alumni work has been fantastic. We've heard from Susan that there's been really great feedback from the alumni that have signed up for the conversation clubs, which are happening once a month. So that's a more casual opportunity for students to get together on a Zoom. There's a limited number of spots so that we can create conversation with the students that sign up. And Marta has been really the kind of ringleader of setting up the conversation club topics, and she does it with another teacher or teachers from our team. We also had Elena, who's our administrative assistant, was on the last one as well, which she really enjoyed being able to see the alumni as well. So those happen once a month. And then we also are doing the seminars, which are a little bit more formal. And that's an opportunity for our teachers to teach the alumni about a topic that might be happening right now in the news in our country, something historical, something about art or architecture. It's really up to the teacher and their discipline for that. And then with the homeschools, what we're doing is working directly with teachers at the homeschools. So we've been working with Hotchkiss, Potomac. I know that Pat has had Santo, one of the teachers in Italy, has been doing work with Albuquerque Academy. So those are really classes that are based on what the teachers back in the homeschools are interested in doing. So we had Marta worked with our other Spanish teacher, Carlota, and they were doing a class last week on inclusive language within Spain in Spanish, and talked about the RAE, which is the Real Academia de España, and del Español, and how are they accepting inclusive language or not? Of course, they're not right now. They're quite, I guess the word, they want things to have been completely, accepted by society before they actually make a change to the official Spanish dictionary, things like that. And so they worked with 2 groups, and then they're actually going back to those classes this coming Friday because the students are writing some questionnaires so that they can then ask them some more follow-up questions. So those are the kinds of things that we've been able to do to connect with both teachers at our homeschools, to support the homeschools. We know that teachers have been doing so much online teaching. Everyone is Zoomed out, and even just to have 1 or 2 classes where a different voice comes in, a different face comes in, a different topic has been really beneficial for the students and for the teachers as well. And then Oriol is actually offering a fantastic seminar for our alumni coming up. So he's going to tell us a little bit about the topic he will be teaching about, and you are all invited, of course.
Yeah. Yes, I'm preparing a seminar entitled Spain, Monarchy or Republic for April 15. This is a controversial issue now in Spain, and the idea is to take advantage of what is happening with the former king, Juan Carlos I, and to review these 2 systems of government, seeing how they evolved in Spain through history, analyzing their pros and cons, with particular emphasis on the situation today. And I really like the idea of having American participants in the seminar, because they will be able to give a more impartial point of view of this issue, especially compared where it's so politicized.
Or is there a homework assignment, or will people be dropped in and just have, and you introduce it and have the conversation?
I don't know yet.
Okay.
Yeah.
I get it, I've taught.
No, but the idea is that people will participate, of course, yeah.
Right. I was going to say there's plenty of articles in the newspapers here about it to assign homework, because it's one of the big topics people are talking about. So
great. And I realize we've been talking at the group. I would love to invite questions. So I'm going to ask one more and then open it up to questions from the group. But I know I'm sitting here just dying to have the kids back. I just can't wait for them to say goodbye to them at the Logan Airport, and they depart to go to their campuses. Meghan, what are you guys feeling on your end of anticipation?
Oh, definitely the same thing. We actually this morning, we had the first in-person meeting that we've had on our team so far. We've been doing everything online to, obviously keep ourselves distanced, and it's just easier for most of the time for everyone, but we're working on some scheduling things, and it was just going to be easier. It was a small group, not the whole team. And so we met at the school, all the windows were open, distanced, masked and everything, but just the energy of us being in a room together and being able to do that kind of work and that back and forth was great. So to imagine kids back in the space, I think it'll kind of bring a sense of normalcy to everyone's lives, but also the energy that the kids bring and the ability to take all of these things that we're learning and then actually put them into action, and apply them and try new things that we've been talking a lot about is something that we're all really looking forward to. So
maybe we can have Carlos there on the first day, and he can sing to the group, get it going.
They need help with their vowels from the very beginning. So I always use a, e, I, o, u, el burro sabe más que tú, but the song is much more beautiful than that. So, how about you, Oriol? What are you excited about?
Yeah, we are ready to say hello to the new group. We are very excited, and I think we are going to incorporate many changes in the way we teach, both in the structure of our classes and in the way we interact with the students. The idea is it's maintaining all the aspects that have been satisfactory so far, and at the same time adopting innovative techniques such as the understanding by design. And we are going to spend time planning our classes from other perspectives in order to be more intentional and to make sure that our students are learning skills that will help them in the future, not only language skills, but also cultural and problem-solving skills. We have also been reading a lot about scientific aspects of the learning process, and we will include everything we have learned to improve the relationships between teachers and students.
Thank you. Thank you. Aaron, do you want to moderate the questions?
Sure, I'm happy to. I saw one come through from Alex Alger. Hi, Alex. Alex, for those that don't know Alex, she is actually one of the campaign co-chairs and a former trustee of ours. So we're huge fans of Alex. And she asked, and maybe Meghan, I'm not sure if you can help with this one. What do you know about the chances for widespread vaccination in Spain before the fall?
It's not as likely as it is in the US, I would say. Spain and the EU is a little bit behind. The vaccines were approved by the EU probably about 3 weeks after they were approved by the US. And so nothing came online until about a month after. There's been some distribution issues with the, one of the vaccines that they're depending on here is the AstraZeneca out of Oxford. And there's been some distribution issues between, with Brexit and the EU and a lot of different kind of small things that have happened that have been added to a little bit of a slowdown. The good thing is though, that what they're saying is that by April, it should start to speed up. So right now they're still vaccinating people that are in most regions of the country. This is another thing which, also has its effect, kind of like in the US, the regions can choose the order that they're going to go in. There's not a national order that's been mandated. And so in most regions now, I'd say, I think people 75 and older are being vaccinated. And then there are also, of course, people who work in the healthcare field. And then they're also really putting a focus on teachers now. So that is a really good sign that things are going to speed up. But there has not been the same talk as there has been in the US about, there being availability. I mean, that's the biggest thing, is not having enough vaccine available yet to have the mass vaccination that it sounds like is more hopeful in the US by the end of the summer. I would say by the winter, but at the same time, I think things could speed up more quickly if they're able to kind of iron out these wrinkles that are popping up. I don't know, Oriol, if that makes sense, everything that you've read too.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Megan, a cousin in Madrid, and she was called today, and she got, she's in her 80s, and she got it today. So it's a cause for celebration.
Yes, that's great. Yeah. I think it's just, if you think of where we are in the US right now, it'll probably be that way here in the next, hopefully, month or two.
Great. Thanks, Megan. If anybody has questions, feel free to unmute and ask them. And if you don't want to get on video or do that, then feel free to submit them. But I think Alex's is the only one that's come through. So I'll open it up. Go ahead, Holland.
Hi. I really have enjoyed hearing about what's going on and what you're looking forward to in the fall. And I'm just thinking about the experiences inside the classroom, but also outside the classroom. And do you anticipate a lot of changes to the way the trips and extracurricular activities and things are going to be experienced by the kids in the light of the pandemic? Or does it seem like things might be pretty much as they have been in years past?
That's a good question. So we actually were talking about this in the scheduling meeting today. As things are right now, we would not be able to take big group trips because you can't have large groups of people together. So one of the things that we were looking at was, options instead of doing like a fieldwork day, which is how we've been scheduling our fieldwork, kind of our experiential piece of the program during a day, weaving it into the schedule so that we can have small groups of students do a visit at a museum or a visit at an exhibition, in order to take advantage of all the things that there are available. Those places are all open. There's just a reduced number of people allowed to visit at the same time. So what we're doing right now is just coming up with contingency plans. So, if we have to be distanced at school, this is what it's going to look like. If we have to have small groups for trips, it'll look like this. And in the best case scenario, if we don't have to do those things, will we be able to just continue with the way that we've been doing things? So fingers crossed, but we're definitely going to find ways to keep things experiential. It just might need to be on kind of a little bit of a less, which actually there's some positives to that too, of having them in smaller groups. It's just a different experience. Thank you for the question.
I have a question.
Hi, James.
Hey, how are you, Tom? And
I'm doing
first,
well.
hi, I'm James Houghton, and my wife Connie's on the phone as well, and our daughter Abigail was graduated from Ren 2 years ago, and so she was in the last class that was able to make it through, and we're so incredibly grateful. She did not have a great senior year, but at least she had the luck of being able to finish the full SYA experience, and I just really wanted to thank everybody at SYA for her, what was truly a transformative time. And my question is actually kind of not that interesting, but I was just interested when you said that you had a lot of kids applying this year, as well as kids from last year that had applied. And just, does that mean that there's going to be more kids in the programs, or is it fewer kids being accepted this year?
Admissions are a little tighter this year. We'll probably end up roughly the same. And James, we've also, for the first time, opened up a few slots for a semester kid, because what we've found over time is, particularly with the rise of sports in high school and the number of things, kids would love to go, but they can only go half a year. Or there are some kids whose parents say, I can't afford all of that, but maybe half a year we could afford. So we're going to try that next year. And part of the planning that Meghan and all are doing right now is kind of getting ready for having some semester kids as well. Now, obviously in the fall, the semester kids and the year-long kids, that will be a seamless kind of thing. And then fall kids will leave. Then we introduce some spring semester kids. And that's going to be the one where there's probably, more attention. And we're working really hard to figure out ways where the full year kids could be really the orientation leaders and welcome these kids and make them feel immediately part of the community. And I think that's, knowing adolescents, that's going to be the key to success, which is that kind of seamless move to that. So those are some other things. And I would say that the other thing that's kind of, next year will be a year we'll probably have a few more seniors than we traditionally do because of that deferred group. So that would be interesting. It used to be a little bit more balanced. Lately, it's been a lot of juniors versus seniors. So Meghan, I don't know whether you want to add to anything I mentioned there.
No, I mean, for us, it looks like we'll probably have about the same number of students. We max out in Spain at about between 60 and 65. So we're preparing for that and excited to see what the semester experience will be like. I think there's, the ease of those first semester students leaving, but then for them going back home and knowing that the rest of the program is still happening. That's something that's come up actually in some of our conversations, and how we'll also kind of try to keep up with those kids who are back at their home schools, but, had just had this really intense experience and now are not in it, even though there's still a whole nother semester to happen. And then, like Tom said, there's that transition of the new kids to come in for the second semester, but then they'll finish the year with the group of kids that's been there for the whole year. So there's just a lot of, moving parts to think about in order to make sure that they have a great experience, either first or second semester.
And still no, I mean, I'm sorry, I guess the question was about the host families. There's no issues with host families. I mean, still same enthusiasm and
yes, yeah, they're very excited, and they're all three of us are working with our host family coordinators right now, all three of the RDs, to get all of the forms out. We added some questions to the forms that we have them fill out about, just COVID related things, and make sure that they're on the up and up about everything. And then they're going to sign something as well before we have the students come. But no, they're very, very much looking forward to it. And they also, of course, have the option to not host for the year if they, because of their age group or because of their, whatever their familial situation might be, they can always choose to just take a year off. We're fortunate in Spain, we have a long waiting list of host families. So we have the luxury to be able to just say, oh, that's fine. And have another family get an opportunity to host that might not have hosted before.
Right. Thank you.
Mm-hmm.
Kristen.
Oh, I think you're on mute, Kristen.
Sorry about that. I'm always curious when people say skills for the 21st century. What does that mean? What are the unique skills that you see for the 21st century? And how did this year of reflection uniquely position or help position you for teaching those skills?
Great question. So the four most common ones that are referred to in the education world as the 4 C's are collaboration, communication, critical thinking. I wrote them down to make sure, and creativity that's kind of the lingo that's used in the pedagogical world, or these 4 C's. I mean, the basic idea is that, if a lot of times when you read articles or I listen to a lot of podcasts about education, the question is, can you Google it? So if you can Google it and get the answer, it's probably not the most important thing to be teaching or question to be asking on a test, for example. So what are ways that we can create situations where our students have to think of a solution to something using information that they've studied, or using, looking at a historical perspective and saying, okay, if this is the way it was done in the past, would it be a good idea to do it again that way? What are some other choices that could have been made? Doing a lot of questioning and comparing, I think, is a really kind of essential way of looking at it, and using the content as the vehicle to practice those skills. So, you know, the end goal isn't that they know all of the most important dates and information about the Spanish Civil War. That's important, you know, that's important content that they might pick up, but I think we all can recognize that we might not remember that much content from the classes that we took in high school. So instead of only focusing on the content, focusing on, okay, when we look at the historical perspective of things, or how does the Spanish Civil War affect, you know, now in Spain, which clearly it continues to have a really big effect on the politics of Spain, on, you know, the way that families are divided or not divided politically, particularly regionalism. I mean, Oriol could get into a lot more of this than I can, but, and so, you know, having that conversation and saying, okay, then let's think about what's happening right now in our own country or in Spain, and how can we imagine that might affect the future? Having those kinds of conversations versus, you know, tell me when the Spanish Civil War happened, for example. So, I mean, that's just one example, but I think this time that we've had has given us the opportunity to really just kind of dive into the research via a lot of the reading that we're doing, and talk about, okay, what are ways that we can take what we've been doing, make modifications, and make sure that we're really targeting these skills that we want our students to have via debate, conversation, and a lot of, you know, question and answer with them, versus you know, just kind of doing things the way that we've always done them as educators.
Megan, one thing that comes to mind for me is we have some distinct, relatively new projects that we do with kids. And one of them is the capstone project at the end of the year.
Mm-hmm.
And it's not just, in fact, we don't want kids to write a paper. That would be the traditional way that kids would do it. So maybe you can describe one or two capstone projects that kind of show us the change of how kids, what they do and how they present it. Because I think that's a powerful example.
Yeah, I mean, so unfortunately, you know, Susana's class wasn't able to fulfill their capstones that they started working on because of the fact that they had to leave. But yeah, I mean, that's a project that is a really good example of giving the students time to do something that is going to help them learn more about the place that they are, and kind of apply what they've been doing throughout the year to this project. And so each student picks a topic that they're personally interested in, and that we try to make sure that it's place-based in the sense that it wouldn't be as easy to do the same thing back in the US, so that it's really connected to the community. And one of the ones that a couple years ago that was great was a student who wanted to see what it was like to be part of the deaf community. Well, in any place, but, you know, particularly in Zaragoza, because of, you know, that's where she was living, obviously. And so she took sign language. She volunteered at a center that's in Zaragoza for kind of like a community center for the deaf community. She did an interview, you know, she got her sign language to a point where she could do a very basic interview with the leader of that organization. And then she was able to do a longer interview via an interpreter, you know, someone who was signing for her. But just that ability for her to, you know, take all of the language skills that she'd used in order to set certain things up, and then get into the community and spend like a whole month doing volunteer work. That's the kind of experiential side as well, where you're focusing on perspective taking, and, you know, what is the experience like for someone who is, you know, different from your experience within the same city.
Megan, may I, Oriol, as you are going to be doing this seminar in the monarchic and republican differences, you know, sometimes we're really unaware of all these subtleties. And if we were to have our kids, say, come to the United States and spend a year, they may end up with an extreme politically polarized family on the right, and another kid may have a family that is extreme on the left. They both go to the same school because both are part of, say, SYA US, and they would have a very distinctive, different story, and they would be really somewhat unprepared. When I've been to the schools, I have had the experience of spending a dinner hosted by a family. And for instance, in Spain, I was with a family that happened to be more on the conservative side, and would have a certain story about the Civil War, and certainly on the dictatorship of Franco. At the same time, there would be someone else that would have a totally different view from a very Republicano family. And these kids are really not, they don't have any sense of what they're getting into. And over time, and it's a full year, they are living in two distinctive, different type of mindset. I'm not saying that they may go for one soccer team. One would be, Real Zaragoza, and the other one would be for Atletico de Madrid. That's pretty common everywhere. But they may not be prepared for this kind of circumstances. And I think it would be helpful to give them just an unbiased, just historical perspective, so that they can better understand situations that they frankly just open their eyes wide open, and are somewhat so uncomfortable about, and someone else is having the same exact experience from the other end within that school year.
Yeah, but I would say that this is something good, because we always experience that, because some of our students live with a family on the right, families on the left, and some families that love to have a king, and some families that doesn't. But as soon as they have respect, and they show with in class with other students, I think it's something good. But I have to say that this seminar about monarchy and republic is for adults. It's for alumni. So in this case, it's different.
Oriol, if there is a newspaper, El ABC, and there is a newspaper, El País, I think that your students will have a chance to read between the lines.
Yeah.
I mean, just to follow up on that. Oh, sorry, Oriol?
No. That we try to do that, to have different points of view. Of course.
I think that's a really good example, kind of with related to the question that Kristen was asking before. Like, those are the kinds of things we actually want. Those are the situations we want to put the students in. For those of you who don't know, the ABC is a very, very right-wing newspaper here in Spain. And so, well, maybe that's just the way I describe it, but I'm sure for many people, they don't think of it exactly that same way. But anyhow, those are kind of the two sides of the, with the press, the País and the ABC. But I think like exactly that, Carlos, like you show them, the two front pages of the newspaper and say, okay, what can we do with this information? What can we learn about the way that information is being distributed to people? Because we know in our own country, in the US, that's a huge issue. And that's something that we've talked about wanting to make sure that we focus on with our students next year, is checking validity of sources, comparing information from different news sources, not always just assuming that the news source that you read consistently or that your family reads is always the right one, or that you at least have to do a comparison to come to your own conclusions. And you're so right. I mean, we have families in Zaragoza that are much more to the right, and we also have other families that are much more to the left, and the students definitely bring that to school and talk about it. It creates a situation for them to have a lot of debate with their families too, which I think is really good.
That good critical thinking component, right?
Exactly. Yeah, and to do that in another language particularly is impressive that they're able to do it.
Right.
Aaron, the teacher in me, I'm mindful that we're kind of reaching the end of the hour here.
That's what I was just gonna say. Yep, we're coming up on the end. So I'll say a thank you, and I have a few asks and comments just to close it. One thing is, as Allison mentioned, if you are comfortable talking about, we had a lot of great conversation today, and please talk about all of it with everybody that you know, because I think it's really interesting and just good stuff to share about what's going on at SYA as it relates to the campaign and your commitment. Would love for you, if you're comfortable, to share about your commitment with other alumni from your class or other parents that maybe your son or daughter went to school with. We can send out a million different postcards and emails and all of that stuff, but until someone hears it from a peer, as Allison said, it just goes unheard. So we would love your help with that as we are in these last 4 months. If you made a pledge early in the campaign, there's actually an opportunity to extend that. If your pledge comes up and ends, this year, next year, payments can be made out until June of 2026. So if you'd like to add and perhaps stretch even further, there's an opportunity to do that. So we just ask you to think about that if that's a possibility. Another small ask, which Allison mentioned, is just to take a little bit of time on our campaign microsite to learn about the Alvarez multiplier match, if you're not familiar with that, and the Women's Giving Initiative. We just sent out an email earlier today. March is Women's History Month, so we've launched that and shared the initial information about our Women's Giving Initiative, and ask you to take a look at that, campaignforsya.org, and then you can click Giving Opportunities up in the right corner. And then last, please just keep checking your email, attending events, showing up for us. We love to see your faces. We love your great questions and engagement with us. It just gets all of our good juices going, especially when we don't have students abroad. So we appreciate the opportunity to interact with all of you and learn what's on your minds. Certainly sign up for Oriol's class in April. Sounds like it's going to be a wonderful topic that there's already some great conversation here about. So sign up, make sure you sign up for that. We've got, typically each month there's a faculty member leads per campus. So one in France, one in Italy, and one in Spain per each week. And then at the end of the month, there are faculty language clubs. Alumni can attend, but also parents. We do have a couple of parents on this, and you're invited as well. So if you'd like to practice some Spanish, French, or Italian, then feel free to join. And thank you again for attending today. Thank you for your commitment to SYA's mission, and we'll look forward to seeing you guys all again soon.